Like many who walk the Camino, my wife and I felt called to it. We made it a plan for our 25th wedding anniversary in late May 2019. We used Camino Ways as our travel agent and decided to take our two college-age daughters with us. We're not athletic and did not have a lot of time, so we planned to do the last 5 days of the Camino to give us an idea of what the Camino can be like. As a treat for our anniversary, we booked hotels and hotel transfers of our luggage. I couldn't wait to get on the trip. But we experienced what I consider a lot of difficulties from the day we left. I share this story with you as a cautionary tale, but also one that depicts a different Camino than you see in a lot of YouTube videos. This is the story of a bad Camino, or is it? You be the judge. On the day of departure from Chicago, the first unexpected problem struck us. My daughter stepped on a brand new razor-sharp toilet brush holder, and it cut her foot open in 3 places. It was a freak accident and led to significant bleeding. Something called wound glue was used at an urgent care center. We were all in shock at what had happened, and we almost missed our flight. It also meant that now our daughter could not walk the Camino, as she needed to be off her foot for at least 5 days. Canceling was considered, but most of the trip had been prepaid. We rushed to the airport and we attempted to get a wheelchair for her. Bizarrely, it took them 45 minutes, despite the airline worker calling for it multiple times. We got to our gate just in time to board at 7 p.m., only to find out the flight was delayed. Then not only was our gate changed, but the flight was delayed several more times until finally it did not leave until around 2 in the morning. We were exhausted. To say we were not in good spirits at this point is an understatement. Our arrival in Barcelona was relatively easy, and we stayed at a very good hotel called Hotel Jazz. They were extremely helpful, including one man who literally ran me through the streets of Barcelona to an orthopedic pharmacy. It was evening and only minutes before they closed. Yet he managed to get us the crutches and gave us some assistance on how to use them, as they were quite unusual looking to us. We carried out dinner from Machina, a funky nearby create-your-own pasta restaurant. I do recommend it for a quick, good bite. We had planned to have a day in Barcelona, but because of our late flight, we had only time to eat the dinner and go to bed because we had an early morning flight the next day to Santiago, where a driver would pick us up and take us to our starting point in Sarria. In Santiago, where we were met by the driver, I'll be brief, he drove a car too small for our family of 4. So we had to sit with our bags on our laps for more than an hour and a half. And what really was more concerning, he fell asleep multiple times while speeding. I raised my voice each time to awaken him. I couldn't believe that I had prepaid for this experience and prayed that we would not die or be injured before we could escape from the car. We arrived in Sarria hungry and stressed, and we checked into the Hotel Alfonso IX, which Camino Ways had booked for us. We asked where we could eat and were told a restaurant was closed for the afternoon. Here you can see the hotel and you can see some other scenes from the town. My uninjured daughter voyaged off to the pool and found that was closed too. I wandered the town to find a grocery store and bring back something to eat. This is a bridge that was right in front of the hotel, and you can get a sense of what the city looks like here. Not to be deterred, my wife and I walked to the Camino that night to have a special moment. The next day, we would have to separate. I would stay with my daughter to help her get to the next town and not spend the day alone, and my wife and my other daughter would walk the first day. It was not what we had planned. Camino Day 1 for my youngest daughter and I was spent in a few antique shops in Sarria, voyaging deep into them and bringing interesting things to my daughter to look at for possible souvenirs. It was a chance to see some of the Camino region that maybe many pilgrims don't experience, since they did not come for this. We had a taxi driver take us to the next town. Puerto Marin, and on the way stopped at a souvenir shop right on the Camino to see what it was like. We had lunch on this quiet street with our driver, right in Puerto Marin. Camino Ways had booked this hotel, Posada de Puerto Marin, a simple but fine place to stay. It had a good restaurant and helpful staff. I do recommend it for pilgrims. Here you can see inside the hotel. It's clearly a step up from an albergue. I took some time to walk around just to get an idea of what the town looked like. The old church near the town square is the San Nicolas Church, which is also known as the San Juan Church. It was built at the end of the 12th century in the Romanesque style and has an interesting rose window, which I only saw from the outside. Unfortunately, my wife and older daughter accidentally wandered off the Camino after walking more than 8 hours in the heat. She called me to rescue them, and I arranged for a taxi to collect me and managed to pick them up and drive them to the hotel. They were exhausted and very sore. This is now Camino Day 2. My wife and I walked the Camino. This would be our only day on the Camino together. She had wanted to get in better shape for the walk before we arrived, but the 8 hours in the heat the first day and a significant uphill climb on our day together was quite a lot. She did make it to about 3/4 of the way to our next town, Palos de Rey, but then she needed a taxi to come and take her to our next hotel. enjoyed resting at a little restaurant along the way. Honestly, the food was not very good, but we had a nice companion, and they didn't complain when we shared our meal.
¿Los gatos tienen más? ¿O quieren más? Más jamón.
Our daughters had taken a taxi to the next hotel separately. All of these unexpected rides added to the expense of the trip, but at least we were together, sort of. Nevertheless, the walk was great, and I was thrilled to finally be on the Camino and walking it with my wife.
So
I had heard of
beautiful.
Castro Mayor, the ruins of a Roman village nearly 2,000 years old. My wife thought I had only stopped to rest a moment, and she had kept on walking, passing the somewhat hidden entrance to the site. When I called her on the phone to see where she was, she said she was too far and could not backtrack. It was too hard for her. So I explored Castro Mayor on my own, and it was something not to miss. Please watch part 2 of Bad Camino to see this amazing, unpreserved Roman ruins just off the Camino. I saw no pilgrims there, and I believe few realize what they're bypassing.